my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. Today we're going to be talking about the Ahsoka series, Andor Episode 7, Tales of the Jedi, and more. Before we dive into it though, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button if you've not done so, and why not give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted every time that I post a new video. But without much further ado, and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. So we begin with the Ahsoka series, and a new tease for the show, as well as some great news regarding production. On Instagram, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who of course is our live-action Sabine, posted an old piece of artwork by Sarah Kippin to tease the Ahsoka show. This is one in a line of several which she's posted over the last few months. In the foreground we see Sabine looking majestic, a true Mandalorian warrior, and in the background we have Ezra, Kanan, Hera, and Zeb. Natasha captioned it, "What a year, this journey," and what caught the attention of a few fans is the fact that Ivana Sakno, who was also cast in Ahsoka, replied with a red love heart and then a green one. And some fans have taken this to mean that she might be playing Hera Syndulla, but I don't think she is. I think it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead who's playing Hera. It would make much more sense age-wise, and word on the street is that Ivana is playing an ally to the Ghost Crew, whose name is Astrid. But this post, as well as a hint from Amanis Fandi a couple of weeks ago, where he posted something similar about the year that he's had, suggests that Ahsoka Season 1 has now wrapped. On top of this, a man who throughout production on his scenes in Ahsoka sported a beard has now shaved it. And this would match what Bespin Bulletin said about the series wrapping sometime this month, and Skeleton Crew will be finishing a month or so after it, so very exciting stuff indeed. And as we're now in the last 2 months of 2022, Ahsoka is quite literally right around the corner. 2023 is going to be really big for the Mandoverse, although we don't know when in the year Ahsoka's going to drop. Mando's expected in February, and I suspect Ahsoka's going to be the winter release later in the year, either in October or like the Book of Boba Fett, late December. And so now guys, let's talk about Andor, because tomorrow is episode 7, the standalone episode before the show returns to the 3-episode arc structure for episodes 8, 9 and 10, and then of course, a 2-part finale. I broke down what I think is going to happen in the episode the other day, and I suspect we're going to be getting a flashback heavy one tomorrow, but Andor has been making headlines for other reasons too, notably that it is severely underperforming compared to other Disney Plus shows, and theories as to why range quite dramatically. Could it be that Cassian Andor is a character that most fans don't care about, considering we already know how his story ends? He dies on Scarif in Rogue One. Or is it because for a lot of folks, the first episode just didn't land, and so they stopped watching? Well, from my perspective, as a fan who adores the show and who's been loving every moment, I'm curious to know why. The Direct broke it down in a very cohesive way, and I want to share that with you guys now. Let's dive into it. New data reveals Andor's audience struggles versus The Mandalorian and other Star Wars shows. Andor may feature a familiar character from a familiar Star Wars story, but Lucasfilm's latest series for Disney Plus is unlike any other that fans have seen before. In addition to its 2 12-episode seasons with time jumps, Andor stands apart in that it's more for adults than kids in both its content and complexities. And for once, it's not a continuation of Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau's ongoing projects. But even though it differs from the likes of the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, audience response to these differences has been overwhelmingly positive. In fact, many fans already consider Andor to be one of the best Star Wars series to date, if not the best. However, while the Diego Luna-led series appears to be winning with fans and critics, it's struggling in terms of audience demand. And that's going to put Disney in a very interesting position going forward in the future if this series doesn't do well. So it all started when Parrot Analytics' Brandon Katz posted the data to Twitter. And as we can see, despite Andor's success with fans, audience demand for the series is significantly lower than other Star Wars Disney Plus series at relative points in their releases, including the Book of Boba Fett. In his own words, Brandon said, "The most disappointing trend I've come across recently is how audience demand for Andor is overwhelmingly lower than The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, despite the fact that it's easily the best Star Wars series by far." Now that last bit of course is completely subjective, but Brandon is right in saying it's so disappointing Andor's not performing, so why is that? We'll talk about that in just a second. trend. So comparing the daily demand of each of the series at their respective start dates, Andor's demand, the blue line, is over 10 times lower than The Mandalorian's 2 seasons, which are red and purple. The Book of Boba Fett is orange, and Obi-Wan is green. Now this graph depicts extensive data on Andor so far, despite the series only being at its halfway point, because this is where the data is trending right now. But Katz explained the trend could very much change as the series goes on, and updates could be made, especially now that Rings of Power just concluded, and HBO's House of the Dragon, it's nearing its finale. And both those series, as well as She-Hulk, were quite popular, so that means them ending could do a lot of good for Andor. So why is such a well-received Star Wars series appearing to struggle in terms of demand? Could it be that it's not for the family and more for adults? Could it be that it's targeting one specific type of Star Wars fan, those who like the spy thriller without the lightsabers or the Force? Well, according to the Direct, the two factors are competition and the nature of the show. Not to mention, a lot of Star Wars fans were disappointed with Kenobi and the Book of Boba, and Star Wars burnout right now is very much a real factor. But it will be interesting to see if Andor's numbers do improve now that shows that it competed with have ended or are drawing to a close. I've seen a few people say that the marketing for the show was bad, but I disagree. I think there was more marketing for Andor than any of the previous shows, and it's really being pumped by Disney+. Another factor could be the slow start, which could have worked against the series in one respect, but in another, it's a much better written series as a result. But we're now going into the show's second half, and I'll be curious to see the analytics closer to the finale, and in the days following the finale. I think it'll take one big moment in the series for word of mouth to spread, as it always does, and that could draw in a larger audience once the show is done, not to mention the fact that a lot of fans are waiting for the show to end to then go back and rewatch it as one. Not everyone is a fan of the one episode a week model, so there are certainly a lot of factors to consider. But my question to you guys, especially those who are not watching the show, what drew you to Mando, Boba and Kenobi that's just not hitting the right notes for you in Andor? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I love fan dialogue and discussion, so let's have it in the comments. And so finally, my dear friends, yesterday we spoke about Tales of the Jedi, and I broke down every episode title, but today we have the runtime for all 6 episodes, and they're as follows. Episode 1 is 17 minutes, Episode 2 is 14 minutes, Episode 3 is 13, Episode 4 is 15 minutes, Episode 5 is the shortest at 10 minutes, and the finale, Episode 6, is 14 minutes. So while they're short, collectively next Wednesday, we'll have a sort of short animated Star Wars movie. Super exciting stuff, guys. And so with that said, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of today's Star Wars news update. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you tomorrow with my full episode breakdown of Andor Episode 7. May the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.